if a friend of mine would talk to me like these students talk to each other, using Shakespeare quotes to form answers in conversations, then I think our friendship would come to a tragic ending. Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about two books that are within the dark academia subculture, and I have finally read them because I've been meaning to read them for such a long time. I absolutely love the dark academia aesthetic, and the first book that I picked up was If We Were Villains by M.L. Arroyo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And the second one was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This one I got from the library, and the edition of If We Were Villains is a 5th anniversary edition. Now, I've been meaning to read this book for such a long time, and I saw this on the internet and I thought, well, this is the perfect time to finally pick it up. It is a stunning edition. I don't know if it's still available, I don't think so, but it is a signed edition with amazing artwork inside. And so yeah, I was really glad to be able to get this edition shipped to me. So if you haven't heard about this book is about an elite group of students who, this group is in theater, and they are studying Shakespeare, especially Shakespeare. And then one day they start arguing with each other and fighting, and everything starts going very downhill. And then one day, of course, someone gets murdered. And Oliver, our main character, is the one who is trying or going to solve this mystery about the murder, because no one truly knows what happened. My cat is behind the curtain, so if you see something moving, it is not ghosts or anything, it's just my cat. But yeah, so this is kind of a thriller. I think it's supposed to be some kind of thriller because we have a murder, and this story is mainly taking place on school ground and in theater. So there's a lot of on-stage scenes and a lot of scenes that they are just partying and talking and quoting Shakespeare. So yeah, this is definitely taking place in the modern world. Next up, I want to talk about the characters. So Richard is our main character, but we have so many other characters that are in this group of students that we follow, and it was really confusing in the beginning. Like, the first 100 pages were such a blur to me. I can't even tell you how confusing it was. But so we have Richard, we have Colin, Meredith, Oliver, James, Philippa, and Alexander. The first 100 pages were so confusing because we get introduced to all of the characters that are in the book. A lot of characters, and they all have their part in the story. So it was kinda confusing at times to keep them apart. It was really hard for me to connect with them because they all had to get their screen time, but I felt that they were too bland and that they didn't really come to life as they should have come to life because they didn't get enough attention. There were too many characters for me. It kind of took me around 200 pages to really start caring about the story. So you have to keep in mind that it can be a slow kind of story to get into. I've also asked someone to buddy read this with me, and she had like the same feeling about like being so, that the story was being so chaotic in the beginning. Like, the first 100 pages were so confusing, and then the rest of the story was also, there was a lot of quoting of Shakespeare, and I think as Shakespeare lovers and people who actually know his works, I think this book is just amazing because you really have to pick it up if you're a fan of Shakespeare, because you are going to love this so much. As a non-Shakespeare lover, I I cannot say that I don't love Shakespeare because I've never read anything by him, but I found it really, really hard to understand what was going on because I've no experience whatsoever with Shakespeare. I kind of felt stupid. Also good to know is that Oliver, our main character, is both interested in women and men. So he both pursues a male and female relationship, which is maybe nice to know to some readers. I have marked 2 quotes that I really liked and that I would like to read to you. The first quote is, "For someone who loved words as much as I did, it was amazing how often they failed me." I think that was really beautiful. And the second quote, "Anything can feel like punishment if it's taught poorly." So yeah, those were my thoughts on If We Were Villains. The next book, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Oh boy, I have some thoughts about this book. First of all, this is a very old one. And this is a book that I constantly saw online within the dark academia aesthetic and subculture because it's so popular, and I was starting to get really curious. It is a big book. This is a Dutch edition, by the way, and it is 620 pages. And I really had to try so hard to get through this. After the first 200 pages, I was gonna give up. I wasn't going to proceed reading it, but then I couldn't bring myself to give up on this because, not because I was interested in the story, but because it is just such a popular must-read book. It's like the #1 book within the dark academia literature culture. So yeah, I pushed through. This book was written in 1992, so it's a very old one. Our main character here is called Richard, and Richard seems to be such a popular name within these kind of books because we also had a Richard in If We Were Villains. Anyway, so Richard is trying hard to get accepted into a class that teaches Greek. And he gets accepted, but it's a very elite kind of group, and there's only, I think, 6 people in the class. And so Richard gets selected, and he immediately notices that something is going on, some mystery is going on, and these other students are hiding something from him. Yet he becomes friends with them. And then one day he discovers, of course, that someone was murdered. And everything follows from there. The main problem that I had with this book, besides the slow, very, very slow pacing, because not much happens in this book, was actually our main character, Richard. He is this kind of very passive protagonist because he isn't really taking action. He lets other characters decide what is going to happen and which actions he's going to take. He's just walking along with the others, and I found that really, really passive behavior, and I couldn't really relate to him as a main character. I think actually like Henry and some other characters were more fleshed out than our main character, which was very like annoying because I want to root for the main character, but I couldn't because he kind of wasn't likable, which shouldn't be a problem. But the execution wasn't really working for me. The story is taking place in Vermont. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Vermont? No idea. The story is taking place in the modern world, but a little older, before cell phones and computers existed. I'm actually really, really sad that I didn't enjoy this book. Because I really didn't. I loved If We Were Villains. I loved it more than this one. And I cannot really tell why. I think because If We Were Villains was a bit faster in pacing than this one, and the characters were a little bit more relatable than these. But anyway, I have read it, and I now know that that I didn't like the book. I hope that if you're interested in picking it up, that I don't hold you back from it, because the rating on Goodreads is crazy. Like, it's a 4.23 or something currently. So it is a very, very high rating, and everyone is loving this book so much. So go ahead and pick it up if the premise is interesting to you, and if the dark academia books are interesting to you. I actually marked one quote in this book, and yeah, it's a Dutch edition, so I'm just going to translate it from Dutch to English, and I don't know if that's the official translation, but it says, "Death is the mother of all beauty." And that was the one and only quote that I marked, and it was kind of in the beginning of the book, and I thought, oh, maybe there will be a lot of quotes that I can share with you guys, but no, this book and I weren't meant to be, and I'm so sad about it. But anyway, it was a library book, so it didn't cost me any money. Let me know in the comments if you have read any dark academia themed novels. I would love to know, and I would also love your recommendations, because I actually really love the setting of these stories, like the themes of art and literature and studying and school environments. I really like that, but I think it all depends on the story, the characters, the execution. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you can recommend me anything else, I would be super happy. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will talk soon.